Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a weekly book club podcast where we talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Not anymore. Fuck it. I've got off it. And how we might include it and improve it in all of our role-playing campaigns. With me, first time host in the DM Book Club studio is the wonderful Taylor. Hello, Taylor.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
It's so good to have you. It's been a while since you and I have done any actual play stuff together. I know I came on your stream a while ago, but then we did Inspire Isles back in the day.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, I know. It's time. It feels like it's been a long time, but also I think it's only been like 2 years, which is still feels like a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
But Taylor, let's start off nice and easy. What is your TTRPG origin story? Like, how did you get into role-playing games?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So the first thing I should say is that I grew up very, I was homeschooled, religious, conservative upbringing. Mm-hmm. So TTRPGs, if I knew anything about them, it was like you will be sucked into another world and the devil will eat your soul or whatever. Kind of got out of that. So college would have been the perfect time for me to get into TTRPGs, and I didn't. But I started listening to the podcast Harmontown, which was Dan Harmon's podcast, and they did a little D&D thing at the end. And I was like, this is so cool. And I was like, as a kid, running around in the backyard with my friends playing Star Wars and stuff like that. So I was doing role playing. I just was not formalized. Yeah. So I listened to that for a while and I was like, oh, this would be so fun. But I didn't know anyone who did any TTRPG stuff. And then my friend's partner offered to run a D&D game for some of us. And as soon as we had the first session, I was like, I gotta be in charge. I gotta start. First of all, I gotta start doing this more.
Wait, well, because the session was good and you're like, I want to do this, or were you like, oh no, let me take over and like fix this for you? Like that could go either way, right?
It could. No, the GM was very good, but it was just one of those things where I was like, I want to make a world and I want to like play more often and all of that kind of stuff. So I started off with D&D in like 2017, 2018, something like that, and then immediately started jamming my own game of D&D. And then pretty quickly, I also, during that time, was listening to other podcasts like One Shot, which obviously was playing stuff other than D&D.
Yeah.
And I was like, this other stuff sounds so cool. And so I started streaming games in the end of 2020 because I had a bunch of games, but I didn't have an excuse to play them. And so I was like, if I start streaming them and I'm like scheduling and all this different stuff, I'll meet new people and I'll actually play these games instead of just thinking about them. So that's kind of my origin story. Was I was just like, I'll just start if I have a thing to do, if I have a production, if I put on a show.
If I build it, they will come. Yeah, no,
right.
It's kind of what happened with What Am I Rolling? That's exactly the same thing. Because I was like, I have all these games. I'll have a podcast and then everyone has to play with me. Oh no, what a shame, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously you said like you started off with D&D, but is there like a particular genre or type of game that you tend to go towards? Or is it like, oh, that's a cool new mechanic or a cool new like genre I've not played yet? I want to go for that. Like what's your sort of angle?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that because I feel like there's a lot of other people in the space who have like a niche or have like a type of thing they really like. I kind of don't. There are games I don't like and there are games I like, but I'll play stuff that's really crunchy. I'll play stuff that's really narrative. I like GM-less games. I like really structured games. I think the thing that I like is reading a game and going, what is this game trying to do? And then playing it based on how I feel like the game is. I try to play games on their own terms, I guess is how I would say it. So if a game is like well written, I'm probably gonna enjoy it to some degree. There's stuff that's like very, very gory and very, very gross. I'm not as into. I like horror games, but if it's like a lot of body horror kind of stuff, sometimes I'm like, maybe not. But even that I've been getting more into. So I don't know. I'll play whatever.
No, I like that because I used to start off by going like, oh yeah, exactly the same thing. I used to be like, what's the story it's trying to tell? Let's try it. Because then obviously, as you know, there's like when you play one game, you're like, cool. And then you go back to playing maybe D&D or something similar. And you're like, oh, but then I can include flashbacks or I can do paint the scene. Right. I can do these other elements in here and change your sort of way of doing the GMing. But I think for me, recently, I've gone, I love a good setting. I feel like often I want to try this on its own terms, but then sometimes I'm like, oh, that sounds like a fun setting. what's the system that's attached to it. If it's a new system, I'm like, great, but like if the setting's really good, I'm like, oh, I get really into that. And then I might be like, didn't like the mechanics, or I struggled with the mechanics, but the setting's really good. What else can I do with that? So I'm on two prongs now.
Yeah, that's cool.
Enough pre-banter. Ugh, throw that away.
To the main banter.
To the main banter, that new segment, Who's This? Taylor, what are we talking about today? What is our topic of choice?
Today, we are talking about the TTRPG Good Society, which fortuitously, we decided this before we knew this was happening, but there's a new version coming out. So yeah. It's good timing. But yeah, if people aren't familiar, it's a Regency era game. It does have a GM. You can play it semi-GM-less, I would say. But there's no dice. Uh-oh.
I mean, we have to talk to each other and like work out who's won by conversation alone. Taylor, what? You mad? Absolutely mad.
I know.
Out of interest, are you a big sort of Regency Jane Austen fan? Because obviously recently Bridgerton has come back into the forefront, and everyone and their mothers seems to be on about Bridgerton, which is great. I enjoy it myself. But yeah, are you a proper Regency person yourself, or is it something that you've just sort of dipped your toe into?
There are certainly people who know more Regency era stuff than I do. I read the great illustrated classics version of Pride and Prejudice when I was like 7 or 8 or something. And I was like, my brain chemistry has been forever altered. Like, that's my like ideal romance. So I love Pride and Prejudice. I've read other Austen and seen other Austen stuff, so like Sense and Sensibility, Northanger Abbey, like a bunch of that stuff. And I have watched Bridgerton, which I'm so on. There are things I like about it. I watched it with a friend and it's like fun. Unsurprisingly, the Anthony Kate season is my favorite because that is basically Pride and Prejudice.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
They hate each other, but they love each other.
Really? Gosh, who could have foreseen? Yes.
I love drama. I love melodrama. And I love romance. I think it's so fun. That's not all Good Society is.
No.
But Good Society does such a good job of setting up realistic reasons why people want to be together but can't, which I think some romance games can struggle with a little bit. And I think the Regency setting kind of helps with that. Like, I think it's truncated a little bit. I think there's like some things that people think are Regency real and they're really more from shows and things, but it's a game, we're making stuff up. So I fall into that category as well.
I wasn't really much of a classics fan. You know, I have seen various iterations of Pride and Prejudice and like I said, Bridgerton, like Jane Eyre and like more Bronte stuff was sort of I studied at school. Obviously, interestingly, Wuthering Heights, the new edition, has now come out, and
True.
It's not like the book. It's incredibly more raunchy. So maybe Good Society would be good for your own version of that. I don't know. I feel like it might not
be. Maybe ghosts are interesting because I know there's some like magic kind of settings for Good Society, which admittedly I haven't played, but you could have someone come back as a ghost. That would be interesting.
So you facilitated a couple of sessions. Like, how much have you played or run Good Society then?
A good amount, I would say, based on, I watched, so Story Brewers put out a video that was, okay, sorry, I should go back. Story Brewers put out a survey a while ago of people who have run Good Society or played Good Society, kind of asking for feedback for the new edition. And I watched the video that they put out, which was one of the designers going through and saying this is kind of what the stuff was. So before watching that, I would have been like, oh yeah, I've played it some. After watching it, I was like, oh, I think I'm in the top 10% of people who have run this game, because I guess people mostly do as one shots. So I've run 2 to 3 short games. So I would say like 1 session, 2 session games. And I've done 2 games that were like 6+ sessions. Ooh. So kind of medium length. I'd love to play a longer, like, 10 to 12 session game. But yeah, I would consider both of those to be kind of on the short end of what this game can do. But on the long end for what people play, apparently.
Well, it's true, yeah, because I also watched that survey video as well, and I think it said like majority of, like, on average people played up to like 4 sessions, and I'm like, wow. I mean, like, I was like, I expected, I don't know, for some reason I was like, I expect like fans of this to be playing, like you said, it's like 6 to 12 sessions because that's what it says. It says to get the full sort of experience of writing or like sort of like collaborating on this sort of Jane Austen novel that you're kind of creating. You should give it that time for it to do the slow burn and changing all the way through. And each session is roughly like 3 hours, she says, like with a sort of play structure. But then to do that like 8 to 10, maybe 12 times, I think like from the outset, it feels like a very hard sell to people who A, may not care for Jane Austen, which is a shame, but also B, who like I feel like it's weird, like you're like, oh, we're going to play like a campaign of D&D. I don't know when the end date's going to be. We're just going to meet up every week. It's fine. And people are like, yeah, all right, sure, I'll come in. And then you go, okay, it's Jane Austen, probably about 10 sessions of 3 hours. I don't know. Not my sort of thing. But it's interesting. Like, I don't know if it's the expectations of, like you were saying, what is it that people expect in a Jane Austen or Regency thing? Is it just, it's a lot of, like, tropey stuff?
So I run a lot of one-shots. I would say this game is not particularly suited to one-shots, even though I have run it that way.
Agreed.
You can run it as a one-shot. I always give the disclaimer to people, like, it's going to be like a snippet of a story, basically. Or it's going to be a full story, but it's going to be really jam-packed. There's going to be things happening back to back. I think there's this conception for people who run TTRPGs that a one-shot is like equivalent to a movie, which I really don't think is true. I think a one-shot is more equivalent to like a short story where it's often open-ended. You kind of get hints at things. So yeah, I would say like a movie the BBC version of Pride and Prejudice is like 20 hours or something.
It's very long.
Yeah, the miniseries. So I would say putting at least that into a good society game makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think as well, not only is like that dedication to the time to create a really wonderful story, because this is the thing I think you and I both agreed on, is that good society creates some of the most like hilarious, ridiculous like sort of stories, but also some incredibly heartfelt and heartbreaking moments that I think a lot of people might feel vulnerable about because they feel so much like these characters like trapped in certain roles and like you said, like wanting to be together but not together, but then maybe, I don't know, I think it's a different side that maybe we modern folk, she says, aren't used to. Maybe now we're like, I'll just tell them my feelings, and it's like trying to navigate these rules. Even though I will say, like, Storybrewers, the writers behind this game, have done an incredible job with that sort of initial sort of collaboration step where you talk about like what the tone is. Like, it feels like, because this game came out roughly like 2017, 2018, so nearly a decade ago, and it's, to me, like, whilst it doesn't say the words session 0, it's very good at going like, hey, what's on the table, what's off the table, what's the tone we are going for? Is it a farce or is it something deeper? And I really enjoyed it. And I think one of the writing in the core book is so good because it talks about like, hey, if you want a farce, probably, if you're doing one or two sessions, it's probably going to be silly. As you said, it's going to be more jam-packed. If you're going for a longer campaign, maybe you want to do a bit more serious and slow burn stuff. And it actually advises you on it. It's like, that's the first time I've ever seen that. Like, even nowadays, D&D modules are like only now going like, oh, maybe it's suited to 2 sessions, I guess, rather than like, it's trying to get the themes of it right out.
Fiona, how much have you played Good Society, if at all?
So I have run it as a one-shot.
Okay, yeah.
And I've read it, I think I've run it as a one-shot twice. One for content, which was really fun, and then one for a group of friends who were just very excited to play a game, but had never thought about like. And I will say it was a mixed gender group for the one I played in person with, and I think they were like, well, we want to play the opposite genders, and I was like, that's fine, totally fine. And he goes, well, I'm going to be silly as a result. And you're like, I mean, you can be. you totally can be, but you also need to flirt. Like, if you're going to do that, and there's like, they got there eventually, but, people's attention spans, that sort of thing. I think, and that's the thing I would say, have you run it at all in person, or has it mostly been online for you?
I think only online. I don't know many people in my real life who play TTRPGs.
That is
so it's
fair.
like all online pretty much.
That's fair. So yeah, I played them both times in person.
Ooh, nice.
And yeah, I think I gained a lot about it online because I'm lucky enough to have got this core set with the cards, physical cards.
Yeah.
That when you give them over to people, they get very excited. So you get like desire cards and relationship cards, and that act of giving something out and having it there in your hand. It was like one of the first RPG games I'm aware of that I started using cards for stuff, whereas now we have like, Daggerheart, for example, of their cards. And it was a delight to see people read them and then be like, oh, wait, it's hidden information, so I'm going to hide it. And like, whereas I think online, it's a different thing, I think, online, obviously. But here, I was like, getting to hand over cards, especially to groups of people who might not have played like games like that, like role-playing games other than D&D. It was just really interesting. And having all the physical, because there's a lot of components to this game. And I think that might be another reason why people might bounce off it at first, because it's like, well, I need a character role, I need a desire card, I need a relationship card, I need a family background, I also need a connection. Well, and it's like there's a lot of stuff. And then you've got the public information sheet. So it feels like there's a lot of stuff that's happening, but actually all of it makes sense, like it feels like it all world builds. And that's the thing I really love about this game, is that it welcomes players contributing stuff. It's one of the first games I think I ran where I have no idea what I was going to do, but the players brought like really cool characters, and then we're getting excited, and I was like, this is easy to play off, and then to be like, oh, well, clearly this must happen next. And it became more of a writer's room rather than like me, templed fingers behind whatever Regency version of a GM screen,
Yeah, a fan maybe.
Oh, of course, yes. Yeah. I mean, what about you? Like, how have you found it like facilitating online? And have you had like bigger groups, smaller groups for that?
Bigger groups, I think. I know I've at least played once, which I'm such a hypocrite because I'm always like, I only like playing with like 3 people, and then a lot of times for games it's like, okay, I played it with 6 people. So I have played this game with, I think, one more than recommended, which is either 5 or 6 players.
Mm-hmm.
That was for a longer game, and also that was getting paid, so I was like, yeah, but add another person.
Get that person in. Go on, go. Yeah,
yeah, come on in, because I'll make a little more money. So yeah, the online play I really like. They have a Google Doc for online play that's pretty slick, I think. And it's interesting that you say the thing about all the components being overwhelming. I have some of the components, like I have the printed out little connection cards, but since I've only played online, I feel like some of that overwhelm feels a little less because it's all on one Google Doc.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, yeah, we have a couple different tabs, and we have the rumors tab, and we have da-da-da, but the cards aren't a part of it, because when I've run it, I've just chosen or like got, we come to an idea of like what play set we're going to use, which for people who haven't played the game, the play set is basically the different desires and potentially relationships that you're working with. So you can choose a play set that's like a farce or a romance or a family drama. Like you can have all the people be related to each other. So picking the play set, and then with the Google Doc, you just load that in. Yeah. So it's not cards, which would be fun, I think, but for some players, I think just looking at it and going like, oh, okay, everything's like right here, feels a little bit less overwhelming. And I've also never played with hidden information. Me neither. Partially because that's hard to do online, but also I don't like the idea of it, to be honest. That's fair. I think it's more fun for everyone for there to be dramatic irony, because that feels like such a staple of the genre, to have some people know things, but like their characters or whatever, I think it's fun. I think it's interesting because, it's like the hidden information thing. I think it's like, oh, well, we only know what our characters know. But actually, often we are reading these books, the Jane Eyre books, the Emma, for example, when you're reading Emma and she's like, I'm matchmaking it. Oh, clearly this person is flirting with you. And you're like, you're an idiot, Emma. Yeah. And you're like, oh, it is me. So, and it means then I always feel like if everyone's on the same page of like, oh, here's all the desires going on, here's all the relationships, you can go, oh, well, my connection, I don't know, we'll get to the secondary connections in a second, like we can play up this moment, there's certain beats we can hit, and it's so satisfying because we know where we're going to go. It's so easy to find the story. Yes. And I too, I'm not
I'm okay with hidden information personally. I think I think it's more satisfying as a storyteller to be like, oh, like we can see it coming and get everyone there rather than like be sort of out the blue going like, why did that happen?
Yeah.
But I feel like with the play sets, as you said, you can either play them partially or in full. And what's great, like if you're playing like a one shot or two shots, depending on what it is that you pick that theme of like a farce or like a wealth and scandal or family matters or whatever it is you're vibing with. And then you get not only like the desires and relationships, but you get the character sheets, the character roles, and the backgrounds. And if it's in part, as you said, you can have the relationship and the desire, and then you can sort of customize from there, or you can have it just in full and just go in like that. And I really like that option. It just feels really like if you had no idea, it's like, I've not got a really strong feeling about wanting to be an heiress or the new arrival or whatever. It's like, here, play an old dowager, and you're like, great, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because there's a couple, I love this game. There are a couple hiccups that I've run into with it a few times. Some of them I think they're handling in the new edition or like addressing, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of them is every time I run this game, I always tell players, do not come to the game with a character concept in mind because it won't work. Yeah. You don't know what your desire is going to be. You don't know, like, usually I'll play with a playset in part so people can choose their family background and character role because I think people just have fun picking those.
I agree.
I'll have some suggested if people like truly don't know, but then I'll say you could swap these out. And almost every time I've run it, there's been one or two people who really do have a character concept in mind, and it does make it harder to do that collaboration because maybe someone is like, I really want it to be like I'm in love with two different people or whatever. But then if the cards don't line up with that, or, the only thing left is this dowager and the person's like, oh, but I wanted to play an ingenue. Then it can be a little
older
tricky.
person for you. Yeah.
You have to die during the game.
Those people who come with the strong character concept, are they someone that is really into Regency and Jane Eyre stuff, or they're just like...
I think usually yes, which is good because then they're bought into the story, which is great, and they're like into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never been like, a horrible experience. It's usually just someone going, oh, I really had this thing, and then kind of having to finagle.
Trying to switch gears and absolutely. Because there is obviously ways you can do your own play sets as well, just as a lot more thinking quickly to put stuff together. But I feel like, I think what I'm getting at with the play sets are either partially or in full with those sort of the collaboration stuff. And actually what you'll talk about the Google tracker is that this game, despite all appearances of it will be, a full experience is 8 sessions plus for 3 hours per session. It's really accessible. Like, you've got all the bits. You've got, it's online. It was one of the first games I think I backed or bought that was like, and we've got it already for online. And this was well before COVID times. And I was like, that's incredible. And Google, only nowadays, I think, when you look at funding, crowdfunders, it'll be like, and we do have a Google Sheet tracker, so you can do it online or form fillable sheets. And I'm just like, that's really cool. But a lot of people will be like, oh, but I need the physical cards. And you're like, no, you can easily port it into whatever. It's actually, like you said, it's just less overwhelmed because you just got your bits. You don't have to do anything. All your information's there.
Yeah, and it's easy to click and see what are the different, desires, as opposed to being like, oh, can I see your card? Which I'm sure is fun in person. I haven't actually done that, but for online, it's really slick to just be like, oh, this person has a brother. I don't really want to have a sibling. So let me look at this other character.
The other thing about the character creation, again, it's fairly straightforward. There's no stats or anything like that. It's just sort of, you sort of create it, you're taking those desires and then making sure that people give their relationship to someone else or taking it on. But then you have, I think, again, one of the more unique things I've not seen in any other RPGs, unless you can tell me otherwise, this idea of making a secondary connection, which is then played by somebody else at the table. Now, I know maybe in other games that's kind of unofficially something you can do, perhaps, but this feels so much fun because instantly what's a character who positively or negatively has a big impact on your major character's life? And it's it's the funny uncle who's a bit in the military and he says some maybe not so great things. Everyone's like, "Oh, me! I want to play that guy." Yeah. I find it's interesting. I think my thing with that is that lots of people love the secondary characters so much that they want to play them as major characters, and I'm like, no,
yes,
they're not. They're supposed to be funny, weird people, perhaps, or people that cause like mischief. But you can't. You've got to play the sort of voice of reason characters. You've got to play the Will Turner. You can't always be the Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times when I've been running the game. So there's this thing in the game called monologue tokens, which players can spend for each other and give like an internal monologue, but they're specifically for the primary characters.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I've been playing and someone's been like, "Oh, I want to know what was there was the Commodore Uncle Fitzwilliam something, like there was this uncle character who had like all these titles, and they were like, I want to know what he thinks about this." And I was like, guys, he's a secondary character. He doesn't do a monologue.
He's not important.
He's not allowed to have an internal monologue. We'll do a spin-off game with
The Life and Times of Commodore
Norrington. Yeah,
I mean, maybe the thing is like if that's a connection under the facilitator's control, is that you just do a really super serious, like deep, like nothing exists. I am. What is the point of life? And it's like yay, everything's great. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's too dark, but I just like, and maybe you'll get more monologue tokens. I don't know, but
yeah. Or don't ever do this again. I'm gonna give such an upsetting monologue. You'll never want to hear from the side characters again.
Yeah, and monologue tokens, such a cool idea. And again, like you said, this game is not. There's no dice in it. It is purely sort of collaboration and the exchange of various tokens and stuff. But I think monologue tokens are so interesting because something in improv, what I do is that there's an improv game called like Oscar-worthy moment, and you have two people doing a scene, and someone there'll be a line that someone says, like, "Oh, but it's just Tuesday. What's so important about Tuesday?" And you go, "Oh, Oscar-winning moment," and that person has to be like, "Let me tell you about Tuesdays," and just go off. And that's the clip they use at the award ceremony, like when it's like being nominated or something like that. And obviously people go to town on it. And I just think having that mechanic here, like just of like, oh, I want to hear what so-and-so's thoughts are as this person leaves or setting up a scene for them. It gives that moment that everyone can sit back and just enjoy this depending on what it is, whether it's in first person or third person or anything like that. I just think it's such a nice little thing that the player can like contribute to, like, in the game, and those thoughts, that sort of little bit of bleed you have is so juicy. I really love it.
Yeah, that and the letters. I think sometimes people get a little bit self-conscious, I think, about the monologues, but the letters, I feel like whenever I've run the game, people are like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what this is going to be," and they'll have like fun. Oh my gosh, I've run the game before. I think this happened multiple times where like someone was like, "I'm going to write this letter, but I'm actually not going to send it. It's going to be in my desk." And so somebody can find it. Or I've had people write letters and then say, "But I want something to happen where my signature gets smudged, and so they think it's from my brother, but it's actually from me," or like forging letters. Like that part of it is so fun
really
too.
Fun. Oh, I love that. Yeah, there's like, I can't remember which various Thomas Hardy book it is, but I think it's Jude the Obscure, where's also or something like that, where there's a letter meant for somebody and it goes under their door and under then the doormat. And they never find it.
Yeah.
Love stuff like that.
Yeah. It's so fun.
So yeah, I'm going to talk about this, the epistolary phase, the letter phase. How do you run it online, out of interest? Like, what do you do it in the session? Do you do it between sessions? Like what's the normal style for you?
Usually in the session, just because usually that's just the flow of things. Like we're an hour into the session and we get to the letter writing phase, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop the session. Like, yeah. Sometimes I should do this more probably when I run it. Sometimes we'll take our like break, because usually I'll do like every hour and a half, I'll do like a break when I'm running games. And so I should time it better so that's like, we'll take a break and you can think about your letters. I'm not super strict on like it has to be word for word what the letter is.
Right.
Like it's fine if people say, which I think the rules say this as well. Like if someone says, "I just want to send a letter and this is what I'm expressing to the person," but like I don't have the like, I didn't write it out in advance. But sometimes people do write them out. Like we'll just like, while other people are doing their letters, they'll kind of like jot things down. Yeah. So yeah, I usually do it during the session. I can't think of a time I can't think of a time when I haven't just done it during the session.
Yeah, the 2 times I've done it in person, yeah, I've usually had it at the break, and I've said, yeah, feel free to write your letter. So each player can write up to 2 letters, and they can also request a letter if they use one of their resolve tokens as well. And it's been interesting because, yeah, I'll usually have the break on it, and people will not go and like get water or stand up. They'll sit there and they'll write their letters. And it's like, I've got a photo of it somewhere where I just sat there. I came back from the loo and I'm, eating like some sort of biscuit. And all of the 4 players I had were so deep in they were like, I must write this now. And I'm just like, wow. And it's interesting, because like as you said, like you can either just improv it or just vaguely say stuff. I've had players that have gone, the letter is smudged or it's been crossed out various times, and they'll read it aloud like that. I've definitely had it. Someone has gone and written a letter and said it out loud, and then the other person goes, "Oh no!" and it crumpled up their letter. And they've gone to quickly write a response. And I'm like, that's really cool. Like, anything about letter writing, I think, because it's that immediacy. Like, sorry, it's not that immediacy. Like, having a conversation, you're getting this, and this has been several days. And it's like, how can I respond to you when we're not in the same room? And it's just that, I love it. I love just again, in person, obviously, get about stuff, but like, just the idea that you get to monologue about the letters to the recipient and they can't do anything about it. They can't stop you. Oh, it's great. Love it.
It's so fun. I think I've also had games where with romance, one person wrote a letter to the other, like calling off an engagement. And in the same letter writing session, the other person was writing like a love letter of like, I know, but they are writing at the same time and like they're sending it like, and the players, of course, are on board for this. Like, they know what's happening, but it's so fun. And then it's like, how do I intercept this letter? Like, it's such a fun way to get from players what they want to happen, because so often they can set up like, oh, I'll invite this person to a party. And then it's like, okay, so we know the next novel faces this party. Or, this person is sending wedding invitations. And so it's like, okay, we know that this person's getting married now. It's a really fun... Something I think this game does really, really well in a very, like, kind of subtle way of really being extremely collaborative in a way that people kind of don't even realize how much they're contributing to the story, because they're just kind of chasing their passion of what they want the character to do. And this game follows that so beautifully, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think even, like, just the structure of it as well. Like, again, it's one of those early RPGs that had here is a play structure. You do this novel chapter where it's like free play. Then you do this, the scandal and reputation and upkeep. And it's like, you must follow this in order to do a full cycle. And then you're done. And it's really easy as a facilitator to be like, okay, we move on to the next bit. This is what it is. Let's go. And I think it just gives a lot of confidence. Again, feels very accessible, not only to players, but to new GMs who aren't, who maybe like, I'm not very good at rolling dice. I can't add, but I can know how many resolve tokens there are, and I can play however many. I think for me, what was it? We had when we did the one in person for content, we had 4 people and they all had sisters or siblings. Nobody else wanted to play this. So I played 3 sisters and an aunt.
Oh,
Taylor,
oh my God.
Let me tell you, they all sounded the very same. Just for ease, I was like, oh, it's this sister. It's like, how do we know? It's like, oh, she's got a different bonnet on. But it was just a delight because, as a facilitator, all you get to do is just play all the other. You can set up a little bit of scenes and stuff like that, but you get to play all these other fun connections that get kind of left on the table, but then you can make them your own. And then maybe later, depending on like, how the, I say the level up, not really, but like when you get to a certain point, you're like, well, actually, I want to take over that connection. You're like, well, okay, then I guess you can have my cool connection that I spent time developing, but you didn't want them to begin with. So I don't know what.
That's funny. So do you usually, when you've facilitated it, do you usually by default play the connections, or do you have the players play the connections?
So because in the game, they all play at least one of the connection, but because of I think it was 4 players, they could create 2 connections each. So they all got to play one, and I got to play the other ones. I think in the sort of for home game, I was just like, this sounds a little. Everyone was like, I think they were just overwhelmed by the idea of having a character. I was like, don't panic.
Yeah.
Like, we'll only create one. Because that's the other thing as well. Again, a way of making it accessible. Like you said, it can be GM-less. You can play it with less than like 3 sessions. And to do that, there's some changes that they do. And again, it's just like really simple, like, hey, here's 5 changes you need to note. But I think it's fun because, like you said, we've said, like, the connections are fun because then you can be like big silly characters or try something new. But all these characters are kind of, they're lovingly made, you know, because they're never like super mean or horrible. They just have an impact on your character's life. So it's like, in my head, I see each of these connections as like the mum character and the major characters. Oh God, why? You're ruining my life. And they just care about them, or they're some sort of meddling thing. And I remember distinctly in, I think it was the one shot I ran online, there was clearly some evil doer character, and I just was like, well, I've got them. And then I was like, and here they are. And they all went, oh, no. And I was like, too late. I've arrived, and I'm going to be snotty at this ball. You know, it's that sort of like, aha. And it's just, it was just a lot of fun because it gives you a lot to play with as a facilitator.
I think usually what I end up doing is just having everyone do one connection. Yeah. And then sometimes we'll introduce more as we go. Even for the longer games I've run, I think it's been because that's the last thing you do in the session 0. Yeah. And I've been able to tell that people are kind of flagging a little bit. And so I'll go, well, I'll just do one. And then I'll put in some hot, sad, pathetic man halfway through.
Surprise. Yeah, I agree with you. I think because, the collaboration and backstory bit, it does take a while. And it feels, I feel it doesn't take any longer than, say, new players to D&D might do.
True.
But I agree. I think people get really overwhelmed with like, okay, it's this family and this, and like, I guess they put a lot of work into it, and then they make a second character and maybe need to make another one. They're like, oh, I just want to play. I want to, what's going on? You know, like, why do I need all this maybe admin up top? But like I said, I feel like, I do think there's a little bit of admin up top. But ultimately, once you play like one cycle all the way through, it's really easy. Like you go, oh, okay, it's this, it's that, yeah. I know you said to me off podcast that one of your favourite mechanics is these resolve tokens. So why is that? Because there's discourse has been around, notably from Quinn's Quest, which, again, not necessarily the be-all and end-all or TTRPG reviews, but when that particular author did like a play report on it, they didn't enjoy it because of the resolve tokens. They felt it was like they were sort of superfluous. They weren't needed, which was interesting. So for you, though, they are super important, though, and significant.
Yes, well, they're kind of the main ongoing mechanic of the game. I would say probably the main mechanic of the game is the structure. Like, the game is very structured. Yeah. But apart from that, I would say it's resolve tokens. The thing that I love about the resolve tokens is that they are a built-in safety tool that feels fun to use. And I feel like a lot of people, especially maybe femme people, have been at tables where someone else at the table is like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And you have to go, okay, do I actually want to do that? What's the pressure if I say no? This is a fun joke, but I don't want my character to be a joke. Like those types of things. And so what the resolve tokens do, for people who haven't played, is you get a certain number of them to start with. I think everyone starts with 3, I think. And you can use the resolve tokens in several different ways. One of them is just kind of like to act on the world. So if you're like, I want it to be that there's a rainstorm and this other person is late to the ball, then you can spend a resolve token to have that be the case. You can also offer people your resolve tokens to get their characters to do something, which I think is one of the best parts of the resolve tokens. I have run into times playing the game where someone is like, I don't need a resolve token, I'll just do that, which is fine. Like, that is a thing you can do in the game if you just like the idea and want to do it. But the fact that someone can offer you and the fact that you can say no, and there's a built-in negotiation, you can say no, you can say yes, but you can say yes, and you get to kind of decide things together. And there is like an actual thing that you're bargaining for, which As you play the game, longer games, a lot of times people end up with a lot of resolve tokens because you
Right.
get them kind of as you go. So as the game goes on, they're not such like a precious, material, but they still feel like they are. Even if you have like 5 resolve tokens, if someone offers you one, you're like, ooh, okay, let me think about this. Do I want to do it? And I just think it's a very nice way of, again, adding to this collaboration where people have a venue where they're allowed to suggest things and there's a way to do it, and people have a way to accept or reject suggestions. And I don't know, I like that a lot. I think it's really nice, and it makes me feel really comfortable playing the game because I know that there's like, if somebody wants me to do something and they don't have any resolve tokens, I can be like, okay, well,
No thanks. Thanks for your suggestion, but I need a little bit of juicy coins.
I'm doing my own thing.
So then a question then, because something that I ran up against, and maybe I missed it in the book. So when players spend resolve tokens, do they go back to the facilitator, or are they gone forever?
I think they're just gone, if I remember correctly. The facilitator, so because you can spend them in different ways.
Yes.
Like if someone was giving, I don't think you can give the facilitator resolve tokens. You can give connections resolve tokens.
Yes.
So if a player wants a connection to do something that I'm controlling, that could go to them. I believe the facilitator, it might be different based on how many people are playing or how many cycles. I think you just get 3 per cycle.
I think so too. Because I think one thing I ran into, I think the book's really great. It gave that advice of like, hey, you spend a resolve token first to show everyone how it's done. And I'm like, okay, great. And then I spent all 3 of my resolve tokens
immediately.
I was like, whoops. But yeah, because again, I think that was the thing for me. It was like, I don't have any resolve tokens, and I've spent my 3 to give an example, or like, throughout the whole thing, it wasn't all at once, but I was like, yeah, everyone else, you must also spend resolve tokens because I can't do anything else now. So that was the thing for me, is that I wasn't sure if ever the players, when they spend it comes back to you. And I know there's stuff like, if you have a rumor that's been spread, then that has a resolve token.
Yes.
And you can spend that to use that rumor in the game, which I think is great. I really like that.
Yeah.
As well. And again, another collaborative bit where like you have a face going like, okay, meanwhile, let's zoom out to the full society. What rumors are going on? And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be related to your characters or the connections. It could just be at large. And each player gets to choose to either like create a rumor or spread it, I think twice, and then I just think that's really cool, because then you can just really build up this like world, and then suddenly, to the next novel phase, you're like, well, I know it's because you have no money, and we're like, oh, scandal,
I think the other thing too, I've never played this way. I would really like to. You can, and maybe you have played this way, Fiona, but the GM can make, or the facilitator can make a primary character of their own, which is kind of a more GM-less style, I feel like.
Yes.
I would really like that. I think one thing, if people are used to a very like God Daddy GM mode, this game is an adjustment, because that's not, you really are facilitating. You're keeping people, reminding people of the rules, making sure that people are exchanging tokens when they need to, injecting drama with your resolve tokens, and then playing the side characters. There have definitely been times when I've been facilitating this game where I've gone like, I'm kind of not doing anything.
I should really do something. Let me get in on the scene. I've never played with a major character because I always worried that, oh no, it's going to become like I'm doing all the things, But actually, I think he's right. If people are nervous about getting stuff done, at least if you have your major character that you can go do stuff, then people are like, oh, well, I'm wanting on that. And get your own thing, but okay, I guess. Come on.
And you get more resolve tokens that way. And I think if you're playing a major character, then you as the facilitator, people can give your major character resolve tokens as opposed to you as the facilitator. So if that's something that people are like worried about with this game, like you can play I don't remember what it is in the game, primary or major character.
Major character,
whichever one that is. Yeah.
Primary, yes. And and like it's interesting because this game was, I don't know if you watched it at all, it was used on Dimension 20.
Yes.
A Court of Fey and Flowers by Abria Ironguard. And it was really good because I think overall it did keep to it. And then they were like, but what if we put some D&D in there? And I was like, damn it.
I know. Okay, good. Is this a safe space? I love that season.
Yes.
I don't think D&D added anything to it at all.
I think it's because they were like, well, what we must have some sort of mechanic, and I was like, you can just fight each other, it's fine. Like,
yeah, and also the fights didn't like a lot of the fights were the same way a fight would be in Good Society, which is like people aren't dying, like it is for show. I liked the way that they used some of the D&D, like one of the characters being like a patron of a warlock, like that kind of stuff. I think is fun, but I was like, we don't need to have booming blade in here or whatever. Let's just
it's like, oh, okay, society. All right, yeah. It kind of just, it really took me out of it because I was like, oh, I think it's the first time, bar like Kids on Bikes. That had been another game had been showcased in such a big way, and I was like, "Oh, I'm really excited!" And then, then it was like, and now we have character stuff, and I was like, "No, no, we don't want that." But because I think they were worried about like, but if we just talk for 3 hours, it's going to be boring. And I was like, no, because it's really interesting. Because there's, you said there's someone who's the patron, and somebody who they weren't who they said they were, and you had two siblings, two cousins who were just foppish. And silly, and it was just all about that season was great fun. It just I never this is my confession, I never finished it because I got so cross about the D&D mechanic.
That's so funny. I did finish it. I do really like that season with the caveat I wish D&D weren't in it really at all. I think it would have been stronger had it just been Good Society and that's it.
I think it's interesting, and I think it speaks to the algorithm of RPGs now, which is synonymous with D&D, is that I think all those players are improvisers or do a lot of comedy as a player, so they would have been absolutely fine. But I think somebody was like, but we need to put hashtag D&D. No one knows what good society is.
Yeah, I feel that. I have, with my online content, have just thrown the algorithm to the wind, and I'm like, I'm playing whatever weird shit I want to play.
You turn up.
No one's gonna
welcome,
see it
weirdo. Yes.
Yeah. But I'm not running a company, so
no.
It's a little different.
That's true. If you unless you tell me otherwise, Taylor, you are not the CEO dropout, and you're like trying to
take off my mask. It's Sam Rice the whole time.
Because I think one of the interesting mechanics that's not to do with XP necessarily is the reputation phase, where essentially we add these tags or these adverbs to your characters about like if they met certain criteria, like and how society judges people. Again, about what they've did since the last reputation phase. So it obviously depends on the letters, it depends on the novel chapters. And if you get free positive or free negative tags, you fulfill some criteria, which leads to a really fun, like in my head, like a vignette scene that has some mechanical benefit on the sense of like maybe your connection goes, I don't like you anymore, or something bad happens, like or something good happens, and it's just a way to give that a big story beat. And it's interesting because in that survey that Story Brewers put out, people were like, I don't understand this. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't understand it? It's like the easiest, it's like the coolest thing ever. Is you're working towards a cool story beat, and like and like what the other thing I liked, again, it's another way for resolve tokens as well, is that if you've got a positive tag, you can use it, but negative tags can be used against you. And I'm like, oh, it means you're invested in other people's characters, and you're like, I want to invoke your greedy thing, and I'm going to put a token on it and say that you can't stop gambling. And it's like, so I just think it's just another opportunity to meddle with consent as with the result.
I can understand why my experience with the reputation tags being used as resolve tokens has not been so much that people just don't entirely understand them. It's that I think people look first to their own just regular resolve tokens.
Yeah.
And then they forget that you can spend them as tags. So sometimes as a facilitator, I'll be like, hey, this person has this, this negative reputation tag that they are whatever, like a floozy. So you can say, hey, this handsome guy doesn't want to dance with you. He wants to dance with me because you have this, negative reputation. But sometimes people just forget, I think. And you do end up with a lot of different ways to get resolve tokens with the rumors and with that. And I think sometimes it can be hard with some of the tags, if it's something a little bit strange or like I
Yeah.
don't know. To use that against somebody and think of like how can I do this in a way that's like fun for the story. So yeah.
Because sometimes I think that they usually on these character role sheets there are some examples and stuff, but I think that's the one thing I hope with the second edition is that they have just way more like examples of like words that could be used maybe positively or negatively, perhaps. Just because, I think sometimes I'm just like, I don't know how I'd use this against you in this particular situation. Like, maybe I have to be creative about it. And yeah, I can imagine that you just forget about it because you're too busy having fun in the main story. And I think, because I know I think that was the big bit of feedback was the tags and maybe reworking it for the second edition. Like, I hope that we keep the reputation like you get 3 things and something happens because I think that's really fun. But I guess the result, you said, I think it's just like maybe it's an extra thing that people forget about because they're trying to focus on. Because, weirdly, this is the only bit of mechanics in the system.
Yeah. I think sometimes, too, it feels more mean to use someone's negative tag against them. So sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to do that. But I always say, okay, if this person has a negative reputation condition, you're kind of helping them by using a negative tag because then it goes away. And then they don't have that condition anymore because they don't have 3 negative tags. So there's that as well. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to like ruin their dance. And it's like, but do it. Ruin it.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting because maybe it's just the way these stories turn out, right? Because they're all usually about like very close, intimate relationships or like strong bonds between people. So there's maybe, again, like I was saying, that bleeds sometimes. You're like, oh, but I don't want to hurt this character, and I'm like, yeah, but we're supposed to put them through it, right? We're supposed to cause impact, and like if again, I think maybe in the second edition it'll be like lines and veils, maybe officially enshrined into it. But like it's like we've talked about and that's the other thing with the upkeep at the end of the session. It goes, okay, we check in on stuff, and like it's a part of the game. So like you can be mean because everyone's agreed to it, and even then we can be like, can I check if this is okay? And people are like, yeah. Fuck me up, like just go on, do it, So I'm always for like bad things happening to my characters because I feel like it's interesting and it gives me something to jump off of, and also feels really satisfying when we get out of whatever hole it is and I've gone, yes, character growth. I've done it.
Speaking of character growth, have you played with the inner conflict at all?
So no, I haven't because it suggested
short
to
games,
do it in short games just to ignore it. And it sounds interesting. Again, another way to be like, you can get extra things at the end, like you could like get another connection or you can create another major character. And I was like, oh god, I think they're interesting as like a role play thing, but I've not played with them at all. How about yourself?
I have played with them once. I think the main thing that I remember is like you can check in and upkeep, and you can potentially get more resolve tokens depending on like it's like, oh, if you did this or acted in service of this, then you get them. They are, I think, almost a little too simplistic in my opinion because it's like family versus your own desires,
your self-worth or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they mostly boil down to like duty versus desire.
Yeah,
so
constantly.
It's like, okay, this is pretty much all of them end up being kind of the same. But I've only played with them once, and even honestly, I think that was for like a 6 or 7 session game, and even that game was still almost too short to really use them meaningfully. So
yeah, I'll be interested if they make a reappearance in the second edition, because I think that maybe something that I wouldn't do as a individual player character, but maybe for the whole table, like, hey, here are some themes and people can tick them off, like it's almost like group XP. Did we solve the crime? Tick. Okay, everyone can get some XP. You know what I mean? So
I was thinking the same thing.
So speaking of like, other things, there are obviously expansions too. I was going to ask, have you played or read through any of the other expansions? It's okay if you haven't, don't worry. I haven't
Oops. Yeah. No, I haven't. They are very interesting to me, but I mostly have wanted to play this game just kind of the vanilla version. I think the expansions you might know, maybe you prepped looking at them a little bit, but I know one of them is kind of like a Downton Abbey kind of thing where it's like an upstairs downstairs, and then one of them is like sword fighting, I think, and then one is magic, if I'm remembering correctly. And then there's also a LARP that I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
That's like a tea party kind of thing. But no, unfortunately, I haven't used them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't either. Again, I think this, again, we barely have time to do a full game of the original base. However, we're going to do these other ones. But I think there's some really interesting ones. So, you mentioned the swordsmanship one. That one's about masked identity. So almost like you're superheroes or vigilantes, so highwaymen.
Oh.
And like you mentioned, the sort of the upstairs, downstairs, at the Abbey, I think it's called. The sort of you could play. You go. Meanwhile, downstairs, you can go to the whichever major character is in that thing. And then what's cool about it is that I think it shows ways that initial sort of play structure you can add things to. I feel like the Downton Abbey-esque one could be interesting, but it sounds like a lot of hard work, and I feel like you'll be there for 6 hours to do one. You got so many.
True.
And to be fair, like again, I think, like I said this before, like I think the writing's really good. It just say like we follow the character that's most interesting, not necessarily the player. So I think like you can go switch between them depending on the phase. Swordsmanship, you have like an extra like couple of phases where you're on the rooftop and you're like ha ha, and then you go straight to God knows what else. And then there's one that's just like magic, which is like I guess cool because then you have ways to like collaboratively talk about like how do we do magic in the world, and like you can what's oh no, it's so unladylike that you just cast fireball.
Ladies don't cast fireball.
Ladies don't cast fireball. They cast firebolts or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
The one I would be interested to try, and I think it'll be interesting to hear your thought on it, is one that's called Emma Forget Me Not, which is all about longing, and there's some interesting things where it goes to like, again, thinking about that play structure. There's one like, meanwhile, what's the weather doing? And the weather's like, and you're like, yes, that reflects what we're doing here. And I think actually that Emma Forget Me Not sort of structure, I think, I'm not 100% sure because I've not read it, but their latest game that came out, the Castles in the Air one, which is about like little women. So I think it's like, again, that's what I can see the instant sort of things. It's about talking about longing and ambition and desire over years rather than just like the 7 years of the Regency. And I was like, that sounds really fun. And it makes sense to have that longer group of games. So it's like, okay, and next time we meet, there's going to be a time skip of 5 years. You're like, oh my God. So I think that sounds really interesting. And then there is, as you said, there's a LARP. There is one that I only read about tonight, and I thought, that sounds fun. It's called Lady Susan P.I., where it's for one session. There's been a murder, and your connection, Lady Susan, is coming in to solve it, and one of you is the murderer, and that's it.
That sounds really fun. I love murder mysteries.
Yeah, I was like, actually, and I think this is just before like Brindlewood Bay that we were talking about before we. And I was like, damn, this sounds really. Again, you got your Agatha Christie, you got your Miss Marple. So I was like, yeah, that sounds like really fun to me. So I was like, I again, it just shows how versatile this game is, in that you can try all these different things if you would like to, but there's no pressure to use it. And I think actually that on top of the magic one, there's that subsection of like, here in the Fae Court, and you're like, oh, okay, so you could have an extra Fae thing there. And that's why I was like, maybe they use that for Fae and Flowers. Yeah.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts, and this is kind of going back to the collaboration step, but the game has, as part of kind of the calibration, you can play in different gender roles. So you can play the game with traditional Regency gender roles, you can play the game with gender roles reversed, and then you can also play the game with gender roles off. And I'm interested to hear like how you've played the game, or if that's like affected the games that you've played, or what your thoughts on that mechanic are.
It's a really good question, because a similar thing to that is that they talk about like how historically accurate is it going to be as well.
Yes.
The two games I played, I think it was just like, it was off. It wasn't reversed. Which is, again, everyone's like, yeah, that sounds really, again, as I mean, like I said, we had a couple of guys in the office company like, we want to play ladies. I was like, okay, I mean, you do you, my friend. But I think I've never seen a game where it's like, gender roles reversed in a historical context. Again, I think that's very interesting, but depending on the group and being safe about it, and similar to gender roles on and enforced. Yeah, I think we were just easy breezy because, again, I think it was just like, does this sound good? Okay, what's the tone like? You know, carried on like that. But yeah, I like that it's talked about as an option because it's something I think automatically, I think default it would be like, yeah, gender's off. I think that's just my default, you know? So what about yourself?
Yeah. I think I've never played gender roles reversed. I think it's cool that it's an option. I'm not particularly interested in exploring, like, what if women were horrible to men? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, what if men were the poor put upon people in society that they must marry, you know, in the season, they are the debutantes, you know? Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so I personally am not particularly drawn to that one. I've played a lot with gender roles off. I think my favorite way to play, honestly, is with gender roles on, because I think I'm a yearner, and I think that's an easy way to have yearning, especially because I like playing with gender roles, traditional gender roles, but queer content. Yeah. That's what I love because, and usually for tables, how when I've played it that way, people have been like, we don't want it to be like violent homophobia or like the realistic stuff of the day, but we want it to be spicy. We want it to be, we can't be caught together, or like we have to be old maids who were roommates. Like, this is kind of
always lived together, and their husbands died years ago, and they've not sought to move out of their
best
houses.
Of friends. So I like that. I think with gender roles off, you can replace it with other things like the status. So you could be like, okay, well, I can't marry this person because their status is too different from me. But I think it's really fun that there's thought given to that, and it can create such a totally different play experience based on how you're calibrating that.
Well, because it is fascinating, like, you know, when you're reading stuff like Pride and Prejudice, you know, Mr. Bennet has 5 daughters, no sons, and he's like, well, you gotta get married. I can't do anything about it, and it's like an interesting problem because that's hopefully, although who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of months with the US as it is.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like that is something that we're very lucky that we have no knowledge of or have no experience of, that we can, you know, own our own houses or have a card and vote. You know? And it's just like, how can we play with this? And like, what does it feel like to explore these issues in a safe way, in a fictionalized way? And going back to what you're saying about the queer content, absolutely. I think, understandably, it's like, well, we don't want to see any horrific abuse or anything, but like that sort of like that moment of like, you know, the very yearning and the general sort of caressing of fingers, always like looking at painting your fingers, and then you're like, oh, it's happening, you know, scream.
I'm gonna paint my best friend and really linger on the features of her lips or whatever. I think that's so fun.
So good. If you were going to give any advice to somebody who was about to facilitate this, or even just play in a game of Good Society, presumably with the second edition coming out, I think people are going to be flocking to try and find out more about it. What's your sort of big, like, a couple of tips or advice that you would give?
I think advice for anyone, facilitator or non, is get messy. Get in there and make problems. One of my favorite things to do, this might be in the book, so this might not be a hot tip. This might just be what the book says to do. But I really tell, when we're doing the connections, there's a part on the connections card that says, here's what I think about above, you know, major character. And I tell people, make it something kind of negative. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I hate them, but it could be, I think this person like is very sweet but naive. Or I think this person like needs to be protected from the world or whatever. So something that is going to be a complication, because in this game you do kind of have to make your own complications. They set you up for it really well because, you know, some of the desires are things like you have to become secretly engaged to 2 people but end it with one and like marry the other, and like that kind of stuff is here, but you have to kind of keep that going. So I think get messy, have your characters be messy and be flawed.
Yes.
And going back to Emma, where it's like, yeah, she's like a busybody and she's constantly, she can't recognize her own anything about herself. She has no self-awareness.
She's like, oh no, it's me. Damn it. Like,
yeah. So I think, yeah, have your characters be like, it's fun when they look a little silly. That's the thing we always like. We love, you know, Mr. Collins saying like, oh these
yes.
excellent roasted potatoes. Like, we love to have characters like that.
Completely unaware of all the tense like looks around the table. Yes.
Yeah. And doing faux pas, I was just watching a video again about Mr. Collins where he introduces himself to Darcy, and the person in the video was saying like, people don't really think about, but in Regency times, even it wasn't just women who needed to be introduced to each other. It was like you wouldn't just go, you would have to have a connection made with you, especially someone of higher status. And so like the cringiness of like him going up and being like, I'm introducing myself to you, and like have your character do that kind of stuff because it's so fun. I think for a facilitator, if you can, I haven't done this, I think it'd be fun to play as a primary character. It gives you a little bit more to do. But if you've never facilitated anything and you're like, the book is pretty long. It's like 280 pages. Not all of it you need to read. There's a lot of setting stuff, which is helpful. And like, I have read it. But if you're running the game for the first time, I would say don't look at the rule book and get like super like, oh, this is so long. It's a pretty simple game. Get familiar with the cycle of play and the resolve tokens. But apart from that, it kind of runs itself at a certain point. So I think this is a great one for a first-time GM or a first-time player. And
I agree. I think it you think, oh God, I've got to read, I know all this book back and forth. And the last half of it, you're like, nah. It's just more information about like, hey, the heiress does this, or, you know, and you're like, cool. Yeah. You just need to know but like, and now we finish the novel chapter. Next up, you know, it's like, that's all you need to do, really. But yeah, I think just having the confidence to do it. And I agree. I think there's something great about making characters that aren't, like, you know, you want to protect them and you want to make sure they're okay, but like, you want them to be silly, like make themselves embarrassed, because that's the thing. You're like, oh no, their reputation is ruined. And then by the time the next season comes around, no one remembers. You know? Gossip goes like that, you know? So
it comes and goes. Yeah, I think that would be the main thing. And if you're used to games with dice, erase your mind. Pretend the dice never existed. Don't leave things up to chance. I believe in you, listener, that you can think of something interesting. I do think this game, the second edition, I saw on the Kickstarter, it said it was going to have more tables of like names and items and things, which I think is helpful. I think that is nice to look at, to go, oh God, I don't know what this person's name is going to be. Okay, here's a table of names. But yeah, I think you don't have to have random chance in games. You can decide something interesting and then do it. And then see what happens.
It doesn't matter if you just say, Darcy appears, or, you know, Mr. Collins. Like, people are like going to go, cool, great. Like, you know, the tropes are there for a reason. And like, you know, as long as you all commit to that collaboration stuff beforehand and then keep checking in, no one gets it. I think my thing would be like, try and do it for more than 2 sessions and see where you get. Because I feel like that's one thing I really wish that I'd done like a full, like I think you said it as well, like I want because you've luckily done like 6+ sessions. I'm like, I want to see what a 6+ session looks like, and like just really enjoy that slow burn and enjoy each other's company. That's not like the success and failure of like, God, someone almost found out that I don't have any money. You know, that's you know, like, and I just think there's just something delicious about it, and just being able to like these trifle things that we don't consider like important, but like 100 years ago or so they were, 200 years ago, sorry, it's even more important. So I guess I think embrace it, have fun, and like you said, I love it. Get messy.
The randomness, I think if someone's missing the randomness of a game with dice or cards or whatever random thing, comes from the other people. You don't know what other people are thinking. Right. You don't know what else is going on in their mind. So you do something, they do something. It's more like chess, like this game, than, you know, Yahtzee, I guess.
What a tagline to put on this episode. It's more like chess, not like Yahtzee. Yeah, I love it. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about how amazing Good Society is. Before we go, where can we find you on the internet if you wish to be found? Is there anything you'd like to plug and promote before we say goodbye?
Yeah. Well, first I should say Fiona has been, I do stream on Twitch and I have a YouTube, which is twitch.tv/roll4flizzy. And Fiona has been on my channel. I do a show called Over the Table where we talk about TTRPG related Reddit stories. So that's on YouTube. If you're like, I just got to hear more of these two talking to each other, you can go check that out.
Okay.
And like I said, I do stream on Twitch. I do video game streams and I also do TTRPG streams, a lot of one shots, some longer series. And then also if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I really want to play Good Society, but I don't know who can run it. Hey, I'm a professional GM. By the time this is out, I'll list a Good Society game on Start Playing Games. So if anybody listens to this and goes, I want to play, it's if you look up Taylor Felicity, just on Google, I think my Start Playing page comes up. But yeah, that's me.
Oh, thank you so much, Taylor. And I'm sure we'll get you back on for something else. Maybe similar.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see what other similar role play. Maybe we'll look at second edition. Go, it's rubbish. Like it's fine. No, play
we hate it.
We hate it. Oh my god. But yeah, thank you so much, and thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode of the DM's Book Club. But until then, from me and Taylor, we'll say goodbye.
Goodbye.